Chapter 26, Brothers, are you excited? This is the first time that Yan Mo has left the tribe, and it is his first time to officially going out to see the world. The first day when they departed up is not counted. He understood his own situation, and when he has exhausted all his energy by trying to crawl around, how can he not take a good time to observe the surroundings? Looking back at the location of the tribe, it really is a hill that is slow and steep, and the mountain is not high, about 100 meters. There is an open space under the mountain. Many slaves are working, or they are polishing the stones, or they are grinding wooden spears. These slaves are all male, and their ages are between the ages of 30 and 50. Of course, this guess is not necessarily accurate. The slaves looked very lazy, everyone is slow in their work, and no one cared about them. There is also a semi-natural semi-crater next to this open space. The pit is blocked by a block of stones, and there are many living herbivores inside. Yan Mo poked Yuan Zhan, who was holding him, and whispered, "What if there is heavy rain? Will the beasts not drown? The summer rain is not that much." "You mean that the summer rains even when it's very hot here?" "Zhan, there are very few rains in other seasons." Yet, Yan Mo noticed that someone was watching him, looking sideways. Is that same Bing with his slave? He finally remembered why the name was familiar. He used to make a full set of dramas fainting. When he woke up, he asked from Cao about the peeping slave who was caught when Yan Mo was performing a surgery on T.A.G. Cao told him that the slave was called the Yang Wen and was the slave of the third-tier warrior Yuan Bing. Because the slave offended his master and Deshan, he was eventually killed. Cao also told him not to say this to the outsiders, it just won't end well. He doesn't know what the Bing man will think when he can't find his slave. Will he think that the Yang Wen run off, or does he think that he has been sinning and got killed, or does he think he was slaughtered by other slaves? Yan Mo heard that a third-tier warrior can have 2 slaves, so what? Is he taking with him the other slave? The slave was also secretly watching him, and his eyes seemed to wonder how his master was willing to carry him, instead of dragging him away by the legs. Yan Mo did not care about the master-servant looks, and did not specifically look back at them. They have not completely left the tribe yet. Going forward, he saw a row of megalithic walls. These walls are not exactly the same, but the gap between each boulder is not very large. The widest place has only 1 meter width. Looking at the grass roots growing under the boulder wall, it shows that this row of boulder has been here for a long time and has not moved for a long time. There are warriors who were sitting or standing on the boulder wall, like guards. Yan Mo guessed that the row of megalithic walls are probably the gate of the tribe, but this door is not like a normal door. In the absence of walls on both sides, the significance of the existence of this row of boulder is probably just to tell others that there is someone behind the site. Sure enough, T.A.G did not take them directly to the boulder wall, but to the left of the boulder wall. On the left and right sides of the boulder wall, there was a dirt road that was often walked on. The soldiers on the boulder wall have already discovered them. When they came to the front, the soldiers on the stone wall all stood up and smacked the right-hand fist to the left chest. T.A.G and others waited a little, but because there were more luggage on hand, there was some inspection. Yan Mo, who was still in a relaxed mood, was just taken to the other side of the stone wall by Yuan Zhan, and immediately turned to face the barbaric and cruel face of the world. Suddenly he stiffened. Just beside him, there was a hill like bones piled up under the root of the boulder wall. There were 4 spears on the ground next to the pile, and each spear punctured a dead human body. There are at least 1,000 of these skulls and bones. The skin and hair of the 4 dry corpses are still there, and the dry, tight face still shows the pain that the corpse suffered before it died. Yan Mo has an instinct that the 4 bodies were likely to be speared while alive, and were put here to dry slowly. Those who do not directly see this scene can never understand his mood at this time. Maybe Yan Mo is really svum in some aspects, but he is not from the chaotic warring years. He is just a doctor born in peacetime and grew up in the rich lifestyle. Even if he is used to life and death, even if he can cut open the anatomy of death on a man eating braised pork, it does not mean that he can see so many skulls and dead bodies and remain as calm as usual. Who are these skulls and corpses? The enemy who committed the crime? Is it that threatening and shocking here? Maybe others can't see it, but Yan Mo only saw the color and corruption of these skulls. It can be seen that these ones are not just put here in one time, and they may accumulated in several large-scale slaughters in recent years. At the same time, he also noticed that most of the piles of skulls are not complete, and there are wounds on the skull that are obviously cut or penetrated. The most terrifying thing is that on some bones and skulls one can still see clear bite marks. Is it a beast or? Yan Mo didn't dare to think about it anymore, and he didn't want to look at it again. As for the 4 dry corpses, they only been here for less than a year. At this time, Yuan Zhan suddenly chastised him violently in his ear. Do you know where these corpses come from? They are warriors of other tribes. They ran to attack our tribe when they could not find food in winter. To snatch the food of the other tribe, they wanted to hunt us, but in the end they were killed and eaten. You have to be a little bit cautious, otherwise I will eat you. You bastard, how old are you? Isn't it naive to use this threat? Yan Mo was smacked by Yuan Zhan, his mind shifted, and he no longer thought about how terrible the world was. Anyway, it was terrible. He has already arrived here, what can he do? Die? He can die and probably not go back. Dalai and Yuan Zhan and others walked out of the stone wall and stopped for about 100 steps. They turned and stood for a long time. They did not look at the skulls. They looked up at the tribal residence behind the stone wall. Yan Mo's gaze was recovered from the pile of skulls, and his eyes swept through De Shan and De Diao faces. The expressions on these people faces was slightly more complicated. Everyone in this team knows that this is a dead end, and almost everyone is ready to die, including Yan Mo. Yan Mo doesn't know if he can die, but on this road he is bound to encounter many dangers. It is easy to survive in the wild. Even the special forces who train in the field and carry various modern living gadgets are not all-terrain safe. He has to survive it. What's more, there are still more primitive beasts, poisonous insects, poisonous plants, and hunters in this world than in the original world. The original world, if someone wants to experience the wildlife, and he only has to spend money on a wildlife safari. Here, the doorstep is the wilderness. No, going by the degree of writing, material, and morality, even where people live is also wild. He is more curious about what Dalai and other people think. Why would they like to come out with Yuan Zhan? Dalai is even on a family trip. He took his brother and his only female slave. If Dalai and De Meng are the people of the Xi Rang clan, they have to support Yuan Zhan. So what about De Shan and De Diao? De Bing was hard-pressed by the chief into this march to death team. How did he think in his heart? Now we need to decide which direction to go. Dalai looked to Yuan Zhan. Yuan Zhan hasn't talked yet, and De Bing has already preached his big mouth. The priest has told us which way to go. There is heavy snow in the north, we can't go there. There is a big fire in the west, and we can't go there. Only the east and the south. There are mountain ants in the mountain foot. Everyone knows that the mountain ants are particularly capable of killing an army. Now we don't know if they have occupied the land at the foot of the mountain of Hassa, or just hunted there. If it is the former, we can't go there. The little mountain ants are as annoying as hell, and every time they attack, they are in a group. Missing Teeth nodded, agreeing with De Bing. The priest's gaze has never been missed. Now the north, west, and south are places we can't go. Only the east is good. The priests looked forward to saying that clay dragons are wrestling with the eagles. The eagle tribe are waiting aside, although he did not say how far they are as from us, but I would think that until we get there, the battle should have ended, and the people of the white eagle tribe should have left the remnants. So the east should be the safest. Yuan Zhan glanced at Yan Mo. Yan Mo is also hesitating. he does not know which direction to look for salt. He can only take it from the common sense of ordinary people and take it for granted that the salt is of course going to be by the sea, and the food in the sea is rich. In today's age when the population is not as good as the days of dinosaurs, the food in the sea must be sufficient, even if it is only offshore. It's not a big problem to feed a tribe. But in which direction is the sea? Judging from the boy's memory, the people here do not even have the concept of sea. They should be in the depths of the inland, and they must travel long distances to reach the seaside. Yan Mo doesn't know the terrain of the mainland of this planet. Naturally, he can't know which direction he wants to go from Yuan tribe to get to the beach as quickly as possible. God knows how big the continent of this planet is, whether the mainland is divided or not, and how much the sea area is. If he chooses the wrong direction, he will not even cross the entire continent. In that case, they might as well find a place with mountains and waters that are more fertile. To this end, Yan Mo chose the south at the beginning. In the south, because of the weather, animal plants and water sources can be guaranteed. If it is in a more southerly direction, there is no need to worry about the cruelty of winter. Although there are many opportunities and dangers, for a Chinese medicine practitioner, the south represents a rich and inexhaustible library of herbs, and more foods can be found. If you can't find the beach, then go south. If you can meet the sea in the south, it is best. If you can't get to it, there the chance of survival will be bigger than in the north. This is the fundamental idea from Yan Mo. As for the south here, the more southward it is, the more terrifying it is, maybe like a tropical forest. He has not considered it so much. Let's first go to the south. Yuan Zhan saw Yan Mo did not say anything, that the boy was worried that it was not far from the tribe, and he did not want to be exposed now, and immediately decided. Why go to the south? The priests have already suggested that the east is the best choice. De Bing immediately retorted. The priests did not say that we would find salt when they went to the east. Yuan Zhan whispered back. Can we find it if we go to the south? De Bing didn't know whether it was because he was purely dissatisfied with Yuan Zhan's arbitrary decision, or as long it was Yuan Zhan's opinions that he wanted to protest. Seeing that De Bing was going to rush to the battle of opinions, De Lai banged his spears to the ground, and yelled in anger, "Let's go." Then he made a big stride toward the south. De Lai started to walk without hesitation, missing teeth immediately followed up. Others did not have to say. De Bing stayed in the end, stayed for a while, and finally caught up with everyone. Gradually, the tribal residents behind them could not be seen. The surrounding scenery is becoming more and more ridiculous. When crossing a semi-sand grassland to a small river, Yuan Zhan and others stopped again. Yan Mo suspects that the river was the river he saw last time on the hills behind the horde. The river spreads very far, and you can't see the tail without bending your head. It's just that the river is not flowing abundantly, not only is it narrow but also shallow. But looking at the riverbed, he can see the obvious signs of being washed out, proving that this was once a big river. This is one of the two largest water sources in the tribe. It is said that when Yuan tribe first chose the tribal settlement, this river was still wide and deep, but then it became less and less, and one day the river suddenly disappeared. Even a little river could not be seen. The priest said that the newly exchanged slaves offended the river god when they came to the river, and all the slaves in the tribe that were exchanged in the same year were taken to the river to be killed. Their blood mixed with water was sprinkled into the dry bottom of the river, the meat was cut into pieces and the bones buried in the dry mud at the bottom of the river. It's really, even the word savagery cannot describe it, and Yan Mo felt even more terrible about the influence of the priest words here. Yuan Zhan is still timidly continuing to intimidate his little slave. After a few days, the river really reappeared. Since then, the priest has not allowed the slaves in the tribe to come here to take water, and they are not allowed to contact the river. Even so, the river here is still often little. We only have water shortages in winter because of heavy snow. Yan Mo wants to tell Yuan Zhan that this is not because of the river god's anger, but the natural change of the river. There must be a complicated underground waterway under the grassland. Sometimes the rivers that have been flowing for thousands of years suddenly disappear, because they have fallen into the underground waterway. In this case, you have no choice but to wait for them to appear again, and some will appear again, while others will disappear forever. But he doesn't know much about geography and hydrology. If Yuan Zhan asked him how he can make the river appear and restore the original amount of water, he certainly can't do it. At that time, this kid will despise him 100%. In this case, he is better off not saying anything. If he doesn't say it, he will let him believe that there is a river god. Where is the water source where they take the water? Where is it? In a grassy land behind the back mountain, there is a place where everyone usually goes there to get water, but the water there was very weird and sometimes suddenly becomes white. You have to purify in the priest's tent. Have you drunk the purified water? Yan Mo wondered what natural phenomenon would cause the water to suddenly become turbid. There are several possibilities to think about it. For the time being, he is not sure which kind of situation Yuan tribe is. No. There are not much of it, and the priests can't easily use them. You don't want to go into the water, sit here and wait for me. Yuan Zhan puts down Yan Mo and unloads the large curls of skins on his shoulders. The same is true of other warriors, who have hurriedly put down their luggage and let the slaves stay in that place, and they ran to the river together. From the tribe to the river, it is a safer area. Waiting for the river to go further is not the same. Originally, water was only used for the drinking and washing activities by the soldiers when they were away from the tribe. De Bing was sensitive to the fact that De Shan and others had some obvious excitement and eagerness to try. Yan Mo looked at the river in front of him and wanted to rush in with the soldiers to take enough to drink. Even if he secretly used the precious water to wipe his body every day, he did not dare to make it too obvious. Today, the mud had accumulated on his body and it was enough to fill out a scoop carried by Yuan Zhan. In other words, if the primitive people are not paying attention to you, you can sleep well. If you change to a modern person, even if you like a boy's parts, seeing him dirty like this, anyone will lose their appetite before they move to the evil horny thoughts. Yuan Zhan and others who put down their luggage have already untied the leather skirt and rushed into the river. This level of coldness is no problem for them. The young warriors laughed and threw themselves in the deep water. The slaves could only watch enviously. After receiving the instructions from the master, they opened the baggage that had been picked up and began to reorganize. Yuan Zhan stood in the river and made Yan Mo throw the wooden scoop in his baggage. After taking the wooden scoop, Yuan Zhan hit a full scoop of water and walked ashore. For you, drink water. The wooden scoop was handed to him. Isn't this like literally letting me drink your bath water? Fortunately, this water is flowing. Yan Mo didn't look at the other brothers who became spiritual because of the cold water stimulation, although the height of the eyes was just right. He took the scoop and saw that the water was still clear. Then in his mind the soldiers were buried in the river and he took the scoop and drank slowly. Other warriors also let their slaves throw the wooden scoops to them, and they also brought water to the slaves to drink. Yan Mo thought that it was too fast, otherwise he would have to make something in the water anyway. There is no food on the road. It doesn't matter for the time being. Without water, that is the biggest tragedy. However, looking at Yuan Zhan and so on, he was not very worried about the problem of water sources. It is not difficult to find a source of water for those who often go out to hunt, at least in the vicinity of 100 miles. How long does it take for your legs to heal? Let me look at how the wounds is doing. Yuan Zhan said that as he moved to get rid of the fixed plate that the little slaves had loosened. Yan Mo quickly reached out and stopped, whispering, "Don't be crassy in front of so many people, I am almost better." Yuan Zhan stopped immediately. Not only that, but he also kneeled down and retightened the loose straw rope. "You are really good for your slave. Is this cruel kid good in bed?" De Bing screamed when he came over. Yuan Zhan patted Yan Mo's intact left leg, got up and bent down to pick up the skirt on the largest piece of fur, and slowly wore it. De Bing still refused to let it go, and continued to provoke Yuan Zhan. Hey, De Zhan, taking him was wrong and he will only drag our legs. I still see that there is salt in the water now, let's kill him and cut him up, most of the meat can be left to you. Yuan Zhan only sneered and did not respond. Dalai frowned, he reprimanded him, De Bing, don't start things up. Yes. De Bing listened to the words and immediately backed off. To be honest, he did not dare to offend the third-tier Dalai who was prestigious warrior in the tribe, and he just hated De Zhan. That's not like hating all the people. In addition, he is not a fool without a brain. In the case that he is the only one of this group who is from He Yuan clan, and if he does not deal troubles with most of his companions, he can live longer if he only listens to the command calmly. He knew that he had been abandoned by the old priest, and he had to fight in the winter to find the new exchange of salt. The chief sent him out, probably also to give the old priest a warning. Although the chief's statement is that no matter whether or not a new salt land can be found, this task cannot be burdened over to the Xirang people only or the Faisha people. Yuan Bing must come back as the third-generation young leaders after the task. Otherwise, in front other young warriors, it is impossible for the He Yuans to even serve him if he takes the chieftaincy. Seeing De Bing is a lot more calmer, Dalai attitude was moderate, and he paused. Still understand, the child is from a salt mountain tribe, we need him if we want to find a new salt-producing land. He can't take us there if he is dead. De Bing was shocked. That little slave is a salt mountain. Well, and he has occasionally heard the priests of their family mention the new salt land. What? Really? Then he knows where the new salt is? Why didn't you say to the chief and the priest? De Bing's eyes lit up, and he asked a little more urgently. Dalai did not answer him immediately. At this time, all the soldiers had all come ashore, and De Bing was temporarily distracted. When he saw De Shan and De Diao who were almost trying to find something in the big parcels, De Bing was furious. What happened to these guys? Why are they not concerned about such an important event? Didn't they hear him and what Dalai were talking about? Or do they already know the identity of a small slave? What are they looking for in the package?